Good evening, everyone. This is Dari on Worldstreams Radio. Thank you to our listeners from all over the world for joining us tonight. And hello and welcome to you here with us in our virtual auditorium on paltalk.com. To learn more about Worldstreams Radio, visit our website at worldstreams.org. Our guest tonight is Roya Hakakian. Roya is the author of 2 collections of poetry in Persian. She was listed among the leading new voices in Persian poetry in the Oxford Encyclopedia of the Modern Islamic World. And her memoir of growing up as a Jewish teenager in post-revolutionary Iran, Journey from the Land of No, A Girlhood Caught in Revolutionary Iran, was a Barnes & Noble pick of the week. She's also founding member of the Iran Human Rights Documentation Center and serves on the board of Refugees International. Roya has collaborated on dozens of programming hours on network television, including 60 Minutes, ABC documentary specials with the late Peter Jennings, Discovery, and the Learning Channel. Commissioned by UNICEF, Roya's recent film, Armed and Innocent, is about the involvement of underage children in wars around the world, and it was a nominee for Best Short Documentary at several film festivals around the world. And we're very excited to have her with us tonight. Hi there, Saeed. Hello and welcome, Roya.
Hi, Dari. Hi, Saeed. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, good evening, everyone, and hello, Dari, and good evening to you, Roya. Thank you for being with us tonight. Today, Roya, we've seen the inauguration of Ahmadinejad.
What a joke.
What is the prize of consolation for what has been very much a contested group of people who have contested the legitimacy of the Iranian election? What is the prize of consolation, in your opinion?
It's that, the event that many people, including a lot of leading journalists around the world, had expected to be just a so-called spasm, meaning that the protests just, showing up for a couple of days and then the protesters vanishing from the street scenes, has not been the case, and that this new movement is robust, alive, and continues to move forward.
Yeah. Well, one, of course, will not understand this movement in 2009 without going back to the roots of how it started and the beginning of it. Could you take us through the history, if you want, of 1979 or even pre-1979, and then give us an idea to the listeners so they can really understand what is going on in Iran?
Well, to me, this is very much the continuation of what people in Iran began in 1979. The whole idea about, with the overthrow of the Shah of Iran in 1979 was to really restore a sense of social freedom to Iran, install civil liberties, and, very much a democracy to Iran. And that revolution, those intentions of that revolution were hijacked along the way by religious extremists in Iran. And instead of a democracy, a theocracy took over the country. What is happening in 2009 is that the very nation that really was overcome by religious extremists back in 79 and had to give way to them, is now back in power, or at least is struggling for power once more. And the very sentiments of 1979 are alive and well, and on the streets of Iran once more.
Okay. Well, there has to be some kind of state of disillusionment with the beginning of the revolution. Personally, I don't like to use the word revolution. Probably we have to find a better word for that. What has happened since the beginning of the transformation that Iran has taken, and why has it taken this long for the Iranians to realize that maybe this country has gone too far to the right?
Well, there are many reasons why it took as long as it did. For one thing, it was because you're right. I mean, you are reluctant to use the word revolution, and so are Iranians as a whole nation, and that was a lesson they learned from 1979. What happened as a result of people storming the streets in 1979, coming out and acting in a way that culminated in a social change, in an upheaval that even the country itself wasn't ready for, that the transformation was far too great and far too quick. And in some ways, the transformation itself was very violent, not so much in what the public did in order to make it happen, but more in the metamorphosis that took place. So vastly, people witnessed, the fall of an order, and without the placement of a new order. All of these things were delivered quite a shock to the nation. And then, of course, the religious extremists took power, and as a result of that, there were many executions and many imprisonments, and, there is at the moment several million Iranians that, as a result of what happened in Iran in 1979, who have been in exile since then. So, people took 30 years to resurrect another movement, just so they do not repeat the mistakes of 1979, just so there won't be another change as, as violent in terms of its unraveling as the one that they knew.
This is really interesting what you just said. 1979, the transformation of Iran took place, and then in 1980, Iran went into war with Iraq. Of course, that underlies maybe an outside force that has made this possible, a war of 8 years between Iran, in order to undermine probably the religious transformation that has taken place in Iran. How much of that, in your opinion, really, in terms of how much the West understood the transformation that has taken place in Iran?
I don't know. In general, I'm not very confident that the West really does understand Iran to begin with.
Yes.
I mean, part of the reason why I watch the news or read the newspapers when they cover Iran is to see, it's not really to gain any information or knowledge about the state of affairs in Iran, but more to get a sense of what is it that the West is thinking is taking place in Iran. I just want to know how far behind they are in terms of their coverage. So I don't. I often. I'm never surprised and hardly ever think that they are, in fact, understanding Iran, especially in the way that they should. When I mentioned that the current movement in Iran has been called a spasm, I am really quoting a diplomat, a U.S. diplomat who called it such. And I was shocked to hear that, because this diplomat is someone who understands Iran very well, and is very familiar with the Iranian history. So you're right. I mean, in many ways, I think that the West, in our case, in the case of people who live in the United States, Americans are never really up to date with their knowledge of Iran, with their understanding of Iran. And I think oftentimes the history in Iran is far ahead of their level of understanding of the events.